The year was 541 AD. The Roman world still believed itself eternal. Great cities stood tall, trade routes stretched across continents, armies marched under banners of empire. Yet far beyond the maps of kings and scholars, something ancient had begun to move. It did not arrive with fire or steel. It came silently. Across the eastern horizons, the sun began to dim. Chroniclers wrote of strange skies, pale, colorless, as if the world itself was fading. Summers turned cold. Crops failed in fields that had fed empires for centuries. People prayed. They blamed gods. They blamed sins. No one blamed what they could not see. In the grain ports of Egypt, ships were loaded for Constantinople, the beating heart of the Roman Empire. Wheat was life. Without it, cities starved. These ships carried salvation and something else. Hidden among the sacks of grain were rats, and on those rats lived fleas. Within those fleas slept a bacterium, Yersinia pestis, unknown, unnamed, unstoppable. When the ships reached Constantinople, the empire welcomed them. Within weeks, the city began to die. At first, it was whispers, a fever here, a swelling there. Then came the signs no one could ignore. Blackened skin, boils beneath arms and along the neck, delirium, death, sometimes within days. The streets filled with bodies, churches overflowed with the dying. The living fled, but there was nowhere to escape. According to witnesses, up to 10,000 people were dying every single day. The capital of the Roman world had become a grave. Even Emperor Justinian, ruler of the known world, fell ill. His armies stalled. His laws meant nothing in a city where survival replaced obedience. This was not a war. This was not a rebellion. This was the first true pandemic, and it was only beginning.
The year is 541 AD. No armies march, no banners rise, yet death is already on the move. From the grain ships of Egypt to the crowded ports of the Mediterranean, something unseen travels quietly, hidden in sacks of wheat, in the fur of rats, in the bite of fleas. At first, it feels like a bad season. People complain of fever, merchants grow weak, sailors collapse on the docks. Then the bodies begin to pile up. In Constantinople, the beating heart of the Roman world, the streets fall silent, homes are sealed, markets shut their doors. The air itself seems poisoned by fear. Victims swell with pain. Dark boils bloom beneath their arms and along their necks. Within days, sometimes hours, they are gone. Chroniclers describe carts rolling through the streets, collecting the dead at dawn. Graves fill, then overflow. The living no longer bury the dead. They stack them. At its peak, 10,000 people die every single day. Emperor Justinian watches his golden empire rot from within. His armies stop moving. His laws lose meaning. Even the palace is not safe. This is not punishment from God. This is not war. This is a microscopic enemy, one humanity does not yet understand, and it will not stop at Constantinople.
But the plague was not finished. From the heart of the empire, it marched outward, toward the edges of the known world, and into Britain. The plague does not stop at empires. It does not recognize borders, crowns, or faith. It follows roads carved by merchants, rivers shaped by time, and ships driven by wind and ambition. By the mid-540s, the invisible killer reaches the far edge of the known Roman world, the island of Britain. This land, once a distant province of Rome, is already fragile. Roman legions have withdrawn decades earlier. Cities are crumbling, trade is fading, and old systems of order are quietly collapsing.
Into this uncertainty arrives something far worse than invasion. The plague enters Britain not with armies, but with silence. No banners, no warnings, only sickness. In towns and villages, people begin to fall ill without explanation. Fever burns through the body, swelling appears beneath the arms and along the neck. Dark marks stain the skin, signs the healers do not understand. Within days, the sick are dead. The Romanized Britons suffer first and suffer most. Their communities are tightly connected, bound by roads, markets, and shared spaces once built for imperial life. These connections, once symbols of civilization, now become pathways for death. Homes turn into sick rooms, churches fill with the dying, burial grounds overflow. The Anglo-Saxons, newly settled and more isolated, are struck more slowly. Their scattered villages and rural lives unintentionally shield them. History does not favor strength, it favors circumstance. Chroniclers of the time struggle to describe what they witness. They speak of empty settlements, of fields left unharvested, of silence where life once thrived. This catastrophe becomes known in later Welsh tradition as the Yellow Plague, not because of its color alone, but because it is remembered as a curse that hunted leaders, nobles, and kings. Entire bloodlines vanish. Power shifts quietly, without battle. Where Rome once shaped Britain, the plague now reshapes it. Political authority weakens, old elites disappear, land changes hands, not through conquest, but through survival. The plague does not merely kill people, it erases memory. Written records fade because there are fewer hands left to write. Oral history fractures because there are fewer voices left to remember. For centuries, this devastation leaves only shadows behind. No monuments, no triumphs, only absence. And then, 1,500 years later, the earth speaks. At a quiet burial site in Cambridgeshire, archaeologists uncover skeletons from the 6th century. In their teeth, microscopic traces remain, preserved beyond time. Modern science extracts DNA from these remains. The verdict is undeniable. Yersinia pestis. The same bacterium that would later cause the Black Death, once swept through Britain long before medieval memory began. This discovery rewrites history. The so-called Dark Ages are no longer a mystery of decline. They are a consequence of collapse. A collapse not caused by war, but by disease. Britain did not simply transition from Roman rule to a new era. It was broken and rebuilt by those who survived. The plague leaves no victory, no lesson written in stone, only a warning whispered through centuries. That civilization is far more fragile than it appears.
History often speaks of wars as the great destroyers of civilizations, but in the 6th century, no army caused as much devastation as silence. The Plague of 541 did not merely weaken empires, it rewrote the rules of human survival. Across Europe, the Mediterranean, and beyond, cities shrank, trade collapsed, fields were left untouched, their harvests rotting beneath open skies. Where once ships crowded the harbors, now only ghosts remained. The Roman world, already stretched thin by ambition and war, could not recover. Tax systems failed, armies dissolved, roads fell to neglect. What historians would later call the Dark Ages did not begin with ignorance, they began with absence, an absence of people. In Constantinople, the heart of the empire, the dead were carried to the streets day and night. Graveyards filled beyond capacity. Bodies were stacked in towers, sealed away not by ritual, but by necessity. Even Emperor Justinian, ruler of a so-called Golden Age, fell ill. Though he survived, his empire did not. The dream of reunifying Rome died quietly, strangled not by enemies, but by microbes. For generations, survivors rebuilt a smaller world, a slower world. Communities became local, knowledge became fragile, and yet humanity endured. 15 centuries later, modern science uncovered what memory could not preserve. DNA hidden in ancient teeth revealed the truth.
This was not myth, not divine punishment, but biology. A bacterium, a flea, a chain reaction of global consequence. The Plague of 541 stands as the first true pandemic, a warning written deep into the foundations of civilization. It reminds us that progress is not permanent, that power is temporary, and that history's greatest turning points often arrive unseen. The apocalypse did not come with fire from the sky. It came quietly, and the world was never the same again.